Hello, citizens of Arizona. My name is Nathaniel White, and I thank you for being here at my campaign rally for governor. Since the turn of the century, more than 2 decades ago, our great country has seen the largest stream of immigration in its history. These migrants have included Greeks, Poles, Italians, and Slavs, and we Americans are a prideful people. We see the rise of political unrest in places like Italy and Russia, that, along with the rising threat of communism, has rightly made Americans fearful of allowing too many foreigners into our country. We've already seen the potential for foreigners to harm America when in 1901 President McKinley was assassinated by a Polish American anarchist, likely inspired by the radicalism of the country from which he draws heritage. This fear and pride within Americans has led to the passage of two substantial immigration acts in the last several years. First, there was the Emergency Quota Act in 1921. This was one of the first major restrictions of immigration passed by Congress, and a good first step in curtailing the amount of foreigners coming into the country. The act initiated a quota to limit immigrants from countries depending on the number of descendants from that country in the U.S. as of 1910. So, the first numerical limit was established, and only a specific number of immigrants could enter the U.S. depending on the nationality. Following that up was the 1924 Asian Exclusion Act and National Origins Act, which essentially tightened these restrictions that were put in place. The quota was lessened from 3% to 2% of the U.S. population from the country as of 1890 instead of 1910. The act curtailed the large-scale immigrations from Southern and Eastern Europeans that we've seen since the turn of the century. It also completely excluded all immigrants of Asian descent, which was necessary given the tendency for Asian immigrants to not assimilate and only steal American jobs. All in all, the act set a yearly quota of 165,000 immigrants from all countries outside the Western Hemisphere. Furthermore, the quotas now accounted for the origins of natural-born citizens. So as a result, a significant number of visas were granted to immigrants from Britain and Western Europe, but were restricted for immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe. Connecting these recent actions against immigration is a widespread sentiment of nativism in Americans. As I mentioned earlier, there's a fear of foreign influence in our country, but there is also a pride within the American people of the prosperous American way of life that was cultivated by our ancestors who came here in the 17th and 18th century on ships like the Mayflower, and it was continued by their descendants out of love and respect for their country. This shared ancestry and national identity is what many Americans feel is being threatened by perpetual immigration. The continuous hodgepodge of different cultures, languages, and religions is surely to result in a nation that in no way resembles its founding, not just in skin color, but in fundamental beliefs. Common ancestry is often overlooked as a factor of a strong, healthy community, but it cannot be overstated, its ability to bring a people together, to unite them.